Peace, fam. All right, so I talked to y'all a little bit about the technical difficulties that we had yesterday, or this morning, really. Um, One of the videos that I told you that I did was Garden Goofs. I'm gonna try to, I'm gonna try to just kind of run through this real quick, kind of freestyle it. I mean, I can't do it like like it was before, and I don't even have access to that video anymore. So I'm hoping that I touch on all of the information, but let's go ahead and get started. I got a problem. I got a strange addiction. Somebody help me. I need an intervention. It ain't alcohol or weed. There's just one thing that I need. I got an addiction to fruit trees. I got an addiction to fruit trees. I take a persimmon to please. Hey, the next one I'm getting Jujube. All right, so Garden Goof number one, or I'll just say Garden Goof honorary mention. Most definitely, don't lose your video footage. Just kind of get to know your camera and stuff like that. Don't just keep pressing stuff out of frustration because you'll lose stuff. But anyway, so if you look at, these are my sprouts. I don't know if you remember like what I had before, but it's not really a whole lot left, as you can see. So what happened was most of my sprouts, and I think that if I had to estimate, I probably have lost about 70% of what I had sprouted. They all started really good. And then all of a sudden it was like they all got leggy. And what I think happened was my grow box was part of the issue. Not the box itself, but just the way that I had it set up. So I'm gonna call this Garden Goof number one. If you have a grow box or grow light situation, make sure that it's right. What I think happened is that my light was too far from my sprouts, and they expended a lot of energy reaching for light, and then they ended up just kind of dying. It's like, it just seemed like all of a sudden they went from being somewhat leggy, pardon me, fam, they went from being somewhat leggy to this extremely leggy to passing out like this one here and like some of my tomatoes over here. And it was like, then they started dying, when they started the passing out thing, I didn't know if it was like too much. I didn't know about the light situation until fairly recently. I saw a video by Gardening with Skinny Boy Randy, and also Lady Led mentioned it as well. You know how if your light is too far, they'll be reaching, and it hurts them in the long run. So, they started the leggy thing. They were just kind of leggy, and then all of a sudden they just got really leggy, and then they would just start passing out. And it'd be like, I'm sleeping at night. It'd be like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I hear all this screaming, and I come in and I see stuff like this, and I'm like trying to figure out what's wrong, and they're not telling me what they need. They're just screaming and looking at me like, you should know. And I'm like, no, I don't know. This is actually the first time I started sprouts inside and then tried transplanting them outside. So I didn't know at that time. So I'm trying like mouth to pedal resuscitation, and it's just not working. So I ended up losing most of my sprouts, which is okay. The thing about it is that I'm going to, well, first of all, the positive in it, because I try to find the positive in everything. The positive is that I know that my garden is not going to get too huge and too overwhelming for me. With the job that I have, it's like I rarely have time. And I told myself this year that I would make time and I would pamper my garden and stuff like that, which I'm still going to do. But with the number of sprouts that actually made it, I know that it's not going to get too overwhelming. The other thing is that I'm gonna just direct sow a bunch of stuff into the soil. Like in the past, when I would garden, it was just me putting, seeds in the ground and then them germinating from there. I didn't have leggy issues. I mean, problems with seedlings getting leggy with stuff like that. And I had a good success rate. So I'm going to be direct sowing, which actually brings me to Garden Goof number, I guess this would be 3. All right, so I don't know if you remember, but when I had everything in the germination box, I had these nice little labels. I had them labeled. I had them in rows to where like everything was in a particular order. So when I up-potted them, I didn't do it in the order that the labels were in, and not everything had a label on it because they were rowed. So long story short, I can't guarantee that one variety of something is the same. I don't know what I have here. Like I know these over here tomatoes for the most part. This right here is like a cantaloupe that's looking kind of iffy. Here I have some squash and some zucchini and some butternut squash, but I can't really guarantee which is which. So what I'm going to do is the squash and zucchini or whatever this may be over here, I'm going to plant this in one section of the garden bed. The tomatoes are going to go on the opposite section or maybe even in a different garden bed. And then I'm just going to direct sow a bunch of stuff. I'm going to direct sow some melons and just different things like that. And just do it that way. You know what I mean? I did the seeds inside because I felt like, it would help me to get an early start on things. And I'd be able to baby them and things like that. But it just didn't really work out that way. I'm going to do some seedlings on the inside again. I'm just going to change up the way that I have my grow box. I'm going to bring light closer or bring them closer to the light. But I am going to be doing some direct sowing. The other thing too, and I think this should be like number 1, honestly. One of the biggest mistakes that I've made, if not the biggest, was that I did not journal. I didn't journal. So I heard people talking about journaling, and I've heard it before. I've never done it before. Like I said, I was always like, springtime hits, throw some seeds in the dirt, water them, and then just let it do what it does. I didn't think I was going to need to journal, but I should have journaled. Now, what I will do, I'm actually going to get a pad to make it my journal for next season. The first thing I'm going to write in there is going to be like my frost dates. That'll give me an idea of like when I should start even germinating seeds, because, another mistake that I made was that I think that I probably started some of this stuff too early based on my grow zone. You know what I mean? I feel like I might have gotten caught up in like the excitement of being able to start things, and I didn't think that it would be a big deal until they started passing out. Then I realized, and then I couldn't do anything. Like I couldn't even get them to a point where I can harden them off because it was still too cold, and just planting them outside was not even a possibility at that time. Like with the tomatoes, I feel like, and even with the squash as well, the squash are looking. They look like they'll be okay. They look like they'll be okay. I'm gonna, plant some more. Like I said, some I'll do inside, but I'm gonna do a lot of direct seed sowing outside as well. The tomatoes, I think that for the most part, they'll be all right. I can just, I know that with these plants, I can bury them pretty much up to the leaves. So like right underneath the leaves, and just they'll kind of stabilize themselves if I take care of them. So I think that these will be fine for the most part. I would give this I'm going to say an 85 to 90% chance, or I think 85 to 90% of this will make it once I put it in the ground. So those are some of the mistakes that I made. It's disappointing. It's frustrating, but at the same time, it's like, in a weird way, it feels good also, just because of the fact that I feel like I've learned quite a bit. Like I said, this is the first time I did like the seedlings on the inside of my house before I planted outside. So that was a learning experience. Oh, the other thing too that I did learn from this experience, and I think that some of the issue with my seedlings was the soil. So, you all know that I love Cap's potting soil. I mean, I swear by Cap's. I'm very loyal to the company. They have an awesome product. I mean, the finest quality soil that you can find, bar none. Bar none. I mean, there's no arguing that. If you try to argue it, I won't even entertain the argument, because Cap's potting soil is, I mean, it's hands down the best stuff that you can use. Almost for anything, right? And for those that don't know, Cap's, they say that it stands for cheap ass potting soil. And I mean, I love it. But that's what I use to germinate my seeds and to get my seedlings started. Excuse my hand. I need my camera lady. But I think that what happened was that, because Cap's is so potent, and it's such a it's such a magnificent product. I think it kind of suffocated the roots of some of my babies. So what I will definitely do is I'll use a seed starting mix, whether it's one that I mix up myself or one that I buy. It's got to be airy. It can't be, what's the word? It can't get compacted. You know what I'm saying? That's the good thing about, like, your cocoa cores or your peat moss, mix it with some perlite and things like that, because it gives it oxygen, it gives it air, it gives it room to actually breathe and expand. Other soils can get compacted, especially like when you water it and then the water starts to dry, and then it's like the roots have nowhere to breathe. And I think that was another issue that I had as well. So this is what I'm doing to try to remedy the issues that I've run into. And if it works, I'm gonna be happy. If it doesn't, then I'll just have to start over. All right, so back to the seedlings. Basically what I did was, and this is probably gonna be, or this will possibly be, another episode of Garden Goofs. I'm not hardening these off in the traditional way. I brought these out with me yesterday because, I mean, they especially the tomatoes, they look like they just need to be out. You know what I mean? There's not no, I just don't think I have much more time, to remedy this situation. They just need to be out. And so I brought them out. And what I'm doing is I actually let them stay overnight because it didn't get too hot yesterday. We had the rain that came down. They look like they actually, I'm not going to lie to you, family. Yesterday they looked a little bit worse than they do today. So they look like they took pretty good to it. So I'm thinking I'm going to let them stay out again tonight, and by tomorrow I'm just going to put them in my garden beds. I'll show you what I did with one. So this is one, another unknown variety of something. I actually put this out like not the night before last. I think it was actually before that. And, the day before that. And it looks like it's doing okay. As far as like this leaf here, it looks weak. And let me know if I should pinch that off for real. Because I'm thinking I want to, but I don't want to do it if it's going to harm it. But y'all, if you can, leave in the comments, because it's actually growing another leaf in the back. But if you can, leave in the comments whether or not I should pinch that off. But what I did was I covered it the first night with this, just to kind of make sure that it stayed warm. And then uncovered it during the day. I didn't cover it yesterday, and it looks like it's still doing pretty good. Like I said, it rained. It's still raining. But yeah, so I'm thinking that with the rest of them, I'm probably going to do the same thing. I'm just going to put them out. Again, doing that may be a mistake. That may become the next episode of Garden Goofs. I don't know. But I'm going to try it just because You know, there's not really anything else I can do for them inside. You know what I mean? So anyway, those are my goofs for now. Just to kind of recap, if I can, I don't have a notepad or nothing. See, journaling. You want to make sure you do that. New gardeners, even if you feel like you don't need it, just do it, man. Seriously. Don't be like me and feel like you don't need it and just not do it and then suffer the consequences. Unless you have a photographic memory and you remember every freaking thing, don't go without journaling in your garden. That's one. Two, you know, figure out your frost dates and things like that. Don't plant things too early. I feel like, especially with me thinking about direct sowing, it's better to plant later in the season, you know, or like in my case, I'm going to direct sow like after the frost risk is gone, like right after that. So I mean, it's not even really going to be late like that, but it's better to do it later than to do it too early. You know, that's my thoughts. That's what I'm thinking based on the results that I've gotten. Also, if you have a grow light situation, make sure your light is not too far from your seedlings. Use the right soil mix when you're germinating. Just go with the seed starting mix. Just go with a seed starting mix. That's like the safest option, and then you can upgrade it later once they get stronger. I'm sure that there was some other things that I mentioned, but you know, like I said, I lost footage. Oh yeah, don't lose your camera footage. I'm thinking I'm gonna call myself, I'm gonna change my whole channel name. I think I'm gonna call myself the Goofy Gardener. Probably have like some sort of goofy logo and things like that. I don't know, we'll see. I'm gonna talk it over with the camera lady and see what she thinks. She'll probably tell me no and to stop being goofy. And then I'll say, well, that's why I'm gonna change it, and then she'll just walk away. You know, because she's a woman of very little words sometimes. You know, but she's effective. But anyway, I appreciate you entertaining my foolery, and I will see you in the next one. Peace, family.